I have a very special guest here, fellow Jobs AC UK blogger, Abigail. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
That's all right. We're both in London today because this week we have both been at conferences in the UK. So we thought we would film a very special video for you guys about our top 10 tips for going to academic conferences. So how about you kick us off with your first tip?
Bringing snacks is something that I think people don't think about. It's a long day. Maybe you're getting to the conference at 8 a.m. and you're not going to see the last paper until 4 or 5.
Reach out to other delegates before the conferences. Academic conferences can be big, scary events. Sometimes there can be a lot of people there. Sometimes there can be a lot of people that you don't know. I'm sure we've both been to conferences where we know absolutely nobody in advance. So if you can get a list of delegates or a program which has the speakers on it beforehand, you can reach out to people online, you can email them. It's a great way of making sure you don't have a completely terrifying experience at a big conference.
Live tweeting is a really good option.
Definitely.
So some of you might already have a Twitter handle and it's a way of meeting academics in your field or keeping track of your research, tweeting things that you want to look at later, that you want to share with your academic community. But live tweeting is a really great option, and it seems like more and more conferences are having some sort of live tweeting hashtag, whether it's a hashtag that they have established for the conference or that some conference goers have set up beforehand or during the thing.
Make sure you work out if there is an important academic in your field speaking at the conference, and if so, attend their paper and ask a question.
Yes.
Now this is a case of do what I say, not what I do, because everyone finds it really nerve-wracking to ask a question of a very prominent academic. Everyone's going to feel anxious about making a fool out of themselves, asking something that sounds daft or really obvious. If you're nervous about asking questions, just go down the route of, I found this really interesting, could you tell me a little bit more about it?
Yes.
And if you don't feel comfortable asking a question in the appropriate question time, find that academic afterwards and go and ask them over coffee or when they're kind of just packing up at the end of their paper.
Going to conference book fairs is awesome because you get a really great discount. A lot of times books, this most recent conference I went to, books were like somewhere from between 30 and 50% off, and a lot of them were books I'm going to need for my dissertation, so I kind of gobbled some things up. But at the same time, it's a more casual environment. People are there milling around, picking up things, having conversations.
On the note of discounts at the book fair, I will say as well, make sure you check out the book fair on the last day.
Yes.
Because sometimes there are extra special discounts when the booksellers are packing up.
A lot of times the display copies will go cheaper than the rest of them, and on the first day, if you ask very nicely, sometimes they'll allow you to write your name in the book if it's something that you really want, but it's a little bit too pricey.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to attend a conference even if you're not giving a paper. Some people can feel quite nervous about speaking to other academics and saying, oh no, I'm not presenting at this conference when asked, so when are you speaking? But there's really no judgment about someone attending and not giving a paper. And in fact, a lot of academics will see this as a sign of someone who's really committed to the discipline, by giving up their time when they could be working on their research, just to hear what other people are working on. I would especially recommend this if you're going to a big conference where there's a job market element. I think it's invaluable to get a sense of how these job market fair conferences work.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And also along with that too, it's in itself a good list of things to do and not to do when you're there, because you might see a paper and think that presentation really worked. Whether it was they had a PowerPoint that was really effective, or their speech style was really effective. If you're giving a paper yourself, practice. If it's your first time giving a paper, meet with a professor, meet with somebody, a friend in your cohort, someone, and run through it to them. Call somebody on the phone and run through it. Make sure you're practicing aloud, which is helpful with a timer, and not just guessing, oh, I think I started at 5:30 and I think it's been about 15 minutes, but really get yourself nailed down on the time. I think it's like one of those like academic manners things, be considerate. And also when you're right on time and you've practiced, you're going to seem more confident even if you're up there nervous.
Allow at least an entire week to write a conference paper. As you progress through your academic career, you might find that you can write papers in less time. For example, if you finished your PhD and you're giving a paper on something from your PhD, you might be able to whip it together quite quickly. But if you're doing a PhD, or even if you're doing new research at a later stage of your career, really make sure you give yourself enough time. So for a 20-minute paper, generally you might write around 3,000 words. I would say I'd write 1,000 words a day. So that's 3 days. just writing the first draft.
Right. Make yourself some notes, and not just notes that go directly toward what you're saying, but notes about questions that you might be asked.
Definitely.
If you have a source in there that you've quoted, have more information about that source, have the context for it, have, if there are kind of questions that you think might come up about the sources that you've used, whether it be a primary source that you've quoted maybe in Latin. For me, Old English as a medievalist. If I'm quoting something in a different language, I have a translation for myself, I have where it came from, I have what else is in that manuscript. You might give your paper to a professor and have them come up with a list of questions they think you might be asked.
Yep.
A peer is another great option. But if you have some of those, like what you think are going to be commonly asked questions for your paper, and then you have footnoted sections where here's more information that I can go into if I get asked a question, you're going to seem really prepared. And if you don't know, because there's always that circumstance where either you're having to think on your feet and you can't remember specifically what you need to say about that source when asked, I always find that the answer that I give and the answer that I see academics give is, well, that's a really great question, let me find out for you and get back to you.
Yeah, don't overcommit yourself to conferences. Now, this is in terms of giving papers. It's really difficult, especially when you're a junior academic and you don't know exactly whether your papers are going to be accepted or not, to work out how many abstracts to submit at any one time. But you do have to be careful and always keep in mind that all your abstracts could be accepted. You don't want to be giving 5 papers in 6 months, for example. It doesn't look good to pull out of a conference.
No.
It happens. Medical emergencies, family emergencies, there are reasons that you might legitimately pull out of a conference, but just being overcommitted and having poor planning is not a good reason to pull out. So we hope you like our top 10 tips for presenting at academic conferences. Abigail, if people want to ask you questions, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at AG Robertson, and I tweet about medieval stuff related to my research. I tweet about the job market, being a graduate student, and yeah, thanks so much for having me, Anna.
Thanks for coming on, and congratulations on your successful paper in Leeds.
Thank you.
And we will see you soon, hopefully.
Thanks so much.
Bye for now.